So here is a look at the League One playoffs and how things finished after the first leg. We had a wild game between Stockport County and Leyton Orient, which is tied 2-2 on aggregate heading into the second leg. And then at the other end of the spectrum, not so much, a scoreless draw between Charlton and Wycombe. Obviously a lot to talk about with both of those matches, which leaves the ties well poised for the next leg. Let's talk about Stockport and Leyton though. From that game and all the madness, no VAR, we saw obviously a goal that would have been disallowed if VAR had been part of the match. Who do you favour in this next leg? I'm
going to say Orient. I think Orient's got the momentum. They came into the playoffs last, and maybe luck's with them because, like you said, their goal shouldn't have stood, but the goal did stand. But going to Stockport in the second leg will be tough, but I'm going to say Orient will just slyly get the job done.
You agree, Grill?
I do. I think form is really important. Leyton Orient come into really good form at the right moment. Obviously the referees didn't want to ref this first game, so they come away with a decent result. That'd be difficult to go to Stockport, but I think they get the job done. And two teams that want to score goals. It was a really fun match. They scored both 72 goals on the season each, so that's second in the league. It's not an easy thing to do in League One, so we'll see, but everything to play for sure in the second half.
And you can say the same as well for Wycombe and Charlton, obviously that one finishing scoreless. How do you feel about Wycombe's chances of advancing in this, Ade?
You know what? I think it's a positive outside looking in. I mean, the last time Charlton came to Adams Park, they put 4 past Wycombe. So Wycombe being able to have a clean sheet, it's a positive. Don't get going to Charlton, to the Valley, is going to be tough, but they'll take the positives in regards to know that they can keep a clean sheet. Wycombe's going to have to step up a little bit. Richard Colney's going to have to step up. Listen, a lot of goals, a lot of emphasis falls on him. He was in the League One Player of the Team of the Year, scored 21 goals, top goal scorer. So a lot's going to fall on him, and also Humphreys. The creativity throughout the season is going to fall on the both of them. But it's a positive, and I know it's looking at. I know Wycombe would have wanted to take a slight advantage to Valley Park, to the Valley. But I'll say it's a positive. So I'm still hoping Wycombe get the job done.
These are two teams that just missed out on auto. Not in the end, they did, but during the season, there was Wycombe that was going to take Wrexham's spot. That's what we were talking about the whole season. Then Charlton made a late charge and had the opportunity to do that with their head-to-head matchups with the top two teams in the league. Wycombe comes into the game losing 3 on the bounce, so they had to find a way to steady it. Then you look at the lineup they put out there. They had their best 4 goal scorers out there. They had Kone, Uda, Humphreys. They had everyone they needed out there, but they needed to just keep a clean sheet, stop the bleeding, and keep it alive for the second game. But I think Charlton now in pole position in the second leg. They've been in great form as well going to finish the season.
Yeah, they finished 4th in the table, just behind Stockport. Obviously, it's Birmingham and Wrexham that went up in the 2 automatic places. In terms of the Championship, though, here's a look at the bracket and the games that are to come for the second legs, because Sheffield United, they pretty much ended that tied in there against Bristol City, leading 3-0 on aggregate. Meanwhile, Sunderland, who had lost 5 on the bounce coming into their match against Coventry City away from home, take a really important 2-1 lead on aggregate. So it just really does show form kind of goes out the window in the build-up to these games.
Yeah, it's the magic of the playoffs. Anything can happen in the playoffs. You don't want to give a team like Sheffield United a 3-goal head start. I tell you that they're juggernauts in the Championship. So there's a lot of work for Bristol City to do. But it's fun. I would say it's more close to the Sunderland-Coventry game. But we'll look forward to and we'll see what Bristol City can do in the second leg.
The first game we talk about is the margins of football and the margins of the playoffs, right? Rob Dickey makes a decision from behind at the stroke of halftime. He gets a red card. Sheffield United start rolling in the game. They get up 3-0. Now they're going back home. So that one, I think, speaks for itself. And the second one with Coventry, Frank Lampard would be left scratching his head, I think, ultimately, because in a game where he played really well, like had a ton of possession, controlled the game, ton of crosses. In the second half, they tweaked it, had added more quality to the crosses, got themselves back into the game almost immediately. And then there's just this crazy mistake from Van Nieuwijk, and we talk about the margins again. But Coventry will not go to Sunderland and lay down. They won't go there. They'll play their game. They'll put balls in the box. They have so many different goal scorers to get it done. And then it's just a matter of what we spoke about all season with Sunderland. The maturity, the organizations. They let at times games get too stretched. And then they come into the playoffs, 1 draw, 5 losses on the bounce, which is the worst, I think, of any team coming into the Championship playoffs. So Can they manage the big moments as a young team, as a team with a lot of talent? But can they manage the big moments like they did in the first leg? If they do, I see them going through. But Coventry will go down like a raging bull.
Well, we always talk about the first goal in a game, and it feels like for Coventry and for Sunderland especially, that first goal, Addy, how much of an impact and a say on the outcome do you think that that's going to have in this game at the Stadium?
Oh, if Coventry get the first goal, it's game on, because that's what they're going to want to go and do there. They're going to want to quiet the crowd. Stadium and light, the fans get going. I've been there a few times. So Coventry, if they get the first goal, it's game on. The first goal is the most important. But Sunderland needs to use the crowd, and if they get the first goal, then again, but like Grella said, it's the young players. They need to be able to play the game and not the occasion, and that's why the second leg it's so interesting, and it can go in either way.
Well, because you would say with a young team and playing at home, you would love to be in that position for the second leg. But in some ways, is the home crowd always a good thing, Grell? Because if Coventry do score, then you feel the emotion of everybody on your shoulders.
It's such a good point. And with a young team and talented guys, like we keep saying, young team like they're kids, like these are some of the top players in the championship. When you look at their roster early on in the season, we're like, this team's getting promoted automatically with how good they are. At home, like you mentioned, is it always a good thing? You almost have to manage the intensity for them, because they're going to want to step on the gas and go for the game. Isidore, Bellingham, Robert, they're going to want to step on it and go. Mayenda, who's been a live wire. Can they manage those moments where they don't go all the time and they don't get stretched and they play in their 4-4-2 and they manage moments and they're balanced? They only had about 4 or 5 counters in the first leg where they tried to hurt Coventry, and they looked really good on those counters. If they do it every single time and get stretched, then they could find themselves trouble, because Coventry have no problem slamming runners to the midfielders. Their fullbacks get high, like we mentioned. Most crosses in the league, over 1,000 crosses, only team to do it in the championship. So for me, it comes down to what Sunderland does in terms of game management. And then going into the last match, we talk about Frank Lampard and say, oh, he has experience in these playoff moments. He has experience in English football. And Reggie Lebris, maybe he's not so experienced. It's his first time playing. And who got it right in the first leg was Reggie Lebris. Also, we can't forget the mistake that Vanuit makes, because probably we're going into this 1-1, if we're being honest with the result from the first leg.
How much do you think that Frank Lampard, on a personal note, needs this and is riding on this? Because he's had an interesting coaching career so far. So to get Coventry promoted, or to even get into the one-off game at Wembley, it feels like it's a big moment in his managerial career too.
Yeah, I think a little bit of pressure would be on Frank. I think Frank Lampard would want it, but I think there's a little bit of pressure on him, because we were waxing lyrical in regards to his experience, knowing, been in the playoffs before, got to a playoff final. And I think what we saw was the way the Sunderland managers tactically got it right. You know, I mean, I'm talking about just from the first tackle. You could see that throughout the week, he really drummed in saying, you're going to have to match them physically to know that they were there. So now, after he watches the game, Frank Lampard's now going to have to look at it and be like, how can now we affect them? So I think it's a lot on him, but like we do say, Coventry won't be afraid. Like it was, we look at it, if it wasn't a mistake, we'll be saying it would be 1-1, would look like a fair result, but it wasn't, and that's what football. And it's going to come down to Frank Lampard having to pull something out the bag.
You both are pretty confident Sheffield United's obviously going through on that side of the bracket. And what's your prediction for who meets them at Wembley and who ultimately gets promoted to the Premier League?
I think it's going to be Sunderland that's going to go into the final with Sheffield United, and then I'm going to go with Sheffield United to go get promoted. I know we're and we're making a lot of predictions here, so we'll see what happens. But Sheffield United, for me, they spent the most time of the year in the top 2 spots. They're a solid team. There's a little bit of old school English football about them, right? Big man, little man up top. Their first goal when Rob Dickey gets into that problem is just a long ball and a flick on, and the good timing from Kiefer Moore puts him in that problem. So I like the sturdiness of Sheffield United and what they did all season.
Yeah, Grella just read my mind. Everything Grella just said, I was going to sadly say. You know, so yeah, listen, I think Sunderland's going to get into the final. I think bringing them back to the Stadium of Light, I think they're going to get over the line. And listen, I've always said, I think Sheffield United are the juggernauts of this league. And I think with Chris Wilder as well, he's been there, he's done that, he's got promoted. And I just think when you look at their squad depth, you know, I just think they're the juggernaut. So I do think that Sheffield United will get promoted to the Premier League. OK, so you're both on the same page. It was Leeds United and Burnley that have already been promoted to the Premier League, and these two have got Sheffield United going with them. The second legs of the semi-finals are coming up on Monday for you.